Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to sit down and film a fun video that I saw my friend Kelly Gooch do. And today I'm talking about some makeup trends and techniques that everyone seems to hate that I personally love. Now, when I say everyone, obviously that is a big generalization. There are so many different ways to do your makeup, so many different trends and techniques. And obviously everybody has things that work well for them and things that don't. But in general, I see a lot of people tend to hate on these specific trends and techniques, and I personally love them. They are some of my go-tos. So I thought it would be fun to sit down and share them with you. Okay, so let's jump into it. I did write them down so I wouldn't forget what I wanted to touch on. So let's start with primer. I know a lot of people say that primers are so unnecessary and that they are gimmicky and they don't make any difference when it comes to makeup. And for me, primer makes such a difference. I rarely do my base makeup without using a primer. I use them for different purposes depending on how my skin is that day or what type of look I'm going for. If my skin feels a little bit dry and irritated, I might use a really moisturizing, soothing primer. If it's extra oily, I'll definitely use a mattifying primer. And if I just feel like my skin is extra textured or the foundation that I'm going to wear will enhance that, I'll typically use like a smoothing primer. So I just think they make such a difference. They prep your skin so well for makeup application. And I know a lot of people don't like them, but for me, I feel like it's definitely a necessary step. I think one argument that does make sense is when people say their skincare kind of works as their priming step, and I think that can be true, but I feel like my skin is always different. If I had very normal, like reliable skin that always acted the same, I think I could rely on my typical skincare products, but I don't like to switch up my skincare too often, and there are days where my skin's a little bit more dry, a little bit more oily, so I think that primer comes in handy for those days, and I just love primer. I always see such a difference when I use it. Kelly actually mentioned this next one in her video, but I had to agree with her. I am such a fan of matte skin. I feel like dewy, luminous skin is a little bit more trendy right now, and matte skin is kind of like a trend of the past, but I never got over that trend because I have extremely oily skin. So for me, my skin is going to get glowy on its own, and I just don't love that look. I prefer to go in with a matte base and hopefully a matte base that will stay matte throughout the day. If I was to do my makeup with a glowy foundation, it would go from glowy to oily so quickly. So I'm definitely a fan of matte skin. I just feel like it looks better on me, and I don't tend to prefer a super glowy or luminous look. I think there's a difference between like a hydrated look and a glowy look. I love using hydrating products, moisturizing products. I'm all about healthy skin in that way. But as far as like mixing in luminizers or going in with super dewy looking foundations, I can't do it. I can't get on board with it because it just doesn't work well for my skin. Along with a matte base, I still love a good full coverage foundation. And I know a lot of people are over full coverage foundations and they just want something a little bit more natural and lightweight. But I think full coverage foundations have come such a long way. They get such a bad rap because they used to be so heavy and cakey, and there are definitely formulas out there that still look like that when you apply them to the skin. But I think there are also full coverage foundations that look a little bit more natural on the skin. They make full coverage foundations that are very lightweight and blendable and easy to work with, but still give you the coverage that you want. And I'm just somebody who tends to prefer more of a full coverage base. My skin is very red. And it's weird because my neck and my chest don't get red at all. So when I'm not wearing foundation, you can tell that my face is so red. And a lot of lighter coverage or natural foundations don't even out that redness. So for me, I just like to kick things off with a very even base, and that's why full coverage foundations make more sense to me. On top of that, I do struggle with breakouts and acne scarring, and I just like to have a nice even base before I go in with more makeup. And I feel like I've gotten on board with more light coverage products these days, and I do kind of switch them out, and I don't always wear full coverage, but typically when I'm doing like a full face of makeup, I just like a good full coverage matte foundation. Okay, let's switch it up and talk about eyes. So I love the fact that colorful eyeshadow is trendy again, and not because I feel like I have to follow the trends or that everybody does, but because when trends come back around, a lot of brands start doing products surrounding that trend. So there are so many different colorful eyeshadows that are available now that weren't even available a few years ago. I know there are quite a few people that believe that makeup should be wearable and you should only use makeup to enhance your natural features and it shouldn't look like you're wearing makeup, but I am not one of those people. I love super bright, colorful eyeshadow. I think it is so much fun. I mean, the nice part about makeup is that it washes off at the end of the day. So I just find it so therapeutic to sit down and play with makeup because as like an adult in everyday life, I feel like I don't have as many chances to be creative as I did when I was younger. So makeup is such a fun way for me to maybe express that creative side. So I love playing with color, and I love the fact that brands are doing so many colorful eyeshadows. Along with that, I love the fact that pink and red eyeshadow have made a comeback this year. I feel like they were a little bit more trendy at the beginning of the year, and I am all about pink and red eyeshadow. I totally get the point of view where people are not fans, because I do think certain pink and red tones can make you look a little bit sick or like you have pink eye, and I can see why a lot of people wouldn't consider that to be flattering. But I just think pink eyeshadow is so much fun. There are so many different pink looks you can do, whether it's a little bit more subtle or really intense. And the fact that it's trendy, again, means a lot of brands have released like pink and red tones in their palettes, and I am all for it. I guess we could say the same thing about blue eyeshadow. I feel like blue eyeshadow had its moment last year when everybody was doing like warm toned palettes with pops of blue. Was that last year or the year before? Whenever it was, I feel like blue eyeshadow made a comeback, and I was all for it too. I feel like a lot of people have flashbacks to like those junior high days where we applied blue eyeshadow from like the lid all the way up to the brow bone. But I feel like it's kind of fun that it came back, because now we can relive those days and kind of create a more refined, grown-up blue eyeshadow look. So speaking of eyeshadow, I love the trend of smaller eyeshadow palettes. It's been so much fun to see brands shift from like super big, large palettes to something a little bit more small and compact, and I am all for it. I think at this point, quite a few of us have multiple palettes in our collection, and sometimes you still want to try a new formula or a new palette, but you don't feel the need to buy a giant palette. So I love that brands have been doing 9-pan palettes, 5-pan palettes, just things that are a lot more small and compact and a lot more affordable. I actually don't know if that one is a trend that a lot of people hate. What do you guys think? Are you on board with small palettes, or do you prefer larger palettes? I think a lot of people prefer like a good medium-sized palette like we're used to seeing, but I love a good small palette. I would buy a small palette over a super large palette any day, because I think in general they tend to be a lot more curated, and I also like accent palettes. I know a lot of people like for their palette to be able to create multiple complete looks, and I totally get it. But again, coming from somebody who does have a little bit of a larger collection, an accent palette is perfect for me, because sometimes I just want to add like a couple of purples into my collection or a couple of greens, but I don't feel the need to have an entire full-size palette with those shadows in it. So I'm all for the smaller palettes, the accent palettes. They have been my favorite. The next trend that I love that I feel like a lot of people hate would have to be lash extensions. I am such a fan of lash extensions, and I do miss mine. I'm not currently wearing them because obviously with everything going on, I haven't been able to get them filled. So I let most of them fall out, and then I did remove the rest of them at home, which I wouldn't recommend. I would recommend going to a professional, but that's just not a possibility right now. So anyways, my natural lashes, they look a lot better than I thought they were going to. I do think lash extensions can be really beautiful, and I do think they can be a little bit more natural looking than a lot of people think. I've seen so many different lash styles all over Instagram. Some have been so intense and so over the top. I mean, if that's what you want to do, I say go for it, honestly, because again, they come off at the end of the day. Well, not the end of the day, but they do come off eventually. They're not permanent, so you can change your look up. But for me, when I was thinking about getting them, I was searching different styles on Instagram, and I saw so many beautiful, like fluttery, more natural styles. And the girl that I go to, her name is Catherine. She does an amazing job, and she gives me more of a natural look. Now, I wouldn't say they're natural by any means, because they are lash extensions, but I don't think they look over the top dramatic, which is why I do love them. I'm somebody who just has very sparse, very short, thin lashes, so even when I use like the most dramatic, intense mascara, I don't typically get the type of look that I want. So I personally love the fact that lash extensions exist. I think they can be done really well. I think I do prefer the look of lash extensions over strip lashes. I just think overall they look a little bit more natural. They can be more customized. So I am all for them. I just think you have to find somebody who knows what they're doing and somebody who will do the type of style that you want. I have to say that after all this time, I still like a good matte lipstick and even a good liquid lipstick from time to time. I do like lip glosses, and I definitely have days where I prefer something a little bit more comfortable, but I just find that overall matte lipsticks and liquid lipsticks are my go-to when I have a really long day ahead of me, when I'm going to be talking a lot, because lip glosses and cream lipsticks are a little bit more high maintenance. I feel like you have to touch them up, you have to reapply them. I always get lipstick on my teeth without fail every single time. So when I'm, like I said, if I have like a long night ahead of me or I'm talking a lot, whether I'm filming a video or I'm going to be, I keep thinking of like Christmas parties for some reason. If I'm going to like a Christmas party or a holiday party where I'm eating and drinking, I just feel like liquid lipsticks come in handy and I still enjoy them. I also feel like you can get just like the most beautiful color payoff and it stays in place well. So after all this time, I'm still on board with liquid lipsticks. The nice part is that I feel like they've come a long way. So a lot of brands have either improved their formulas or created new ones that stay in place well, but don't feel as tight or dry or uncomfortable. Okay, this last one is kind of random, but I thought about it because a trend that I actually do not like that a lot of people love would be blush on the nose. And if you guys want to see the opposite version of this video, like makeup trends that everybody loves that I actually hate, let me know because I can film that. But I know a lot of people love applying blush on like the bridge of the nose and like right here, but I think because I naturally get red there, that's why I don't like it. But one that I thought of that was kind of similar was highlighter on the tip of the nose. I never wore highlighter on the tip of my nose until one day I randomly applied it because I love a good matte full coverage base like I talked about earlier, but when I apply highlighter just on my cheeks, I feel like that looks so unnatural. So I started taking my brush and whatever highlighter was left over, I would apply it on like the center of my forehead, right on my chin, and then just a little bit on the tip of my nose, and I just felt like it kind of brought everything together. I don't want the tip of my nose to be like beaming, and I feel like when I'm filming, because there are so many lights, sometimes it looks a little bit more intense, but when I'm wearing a matte full coverage foundation and I just apply highlighter on the cheeks, it just doesn't look right. So I love to kind of apply it everywhere else very, very lightly. Okay, so that is the end of my video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had so much fun sitting down and maybe sharing a couple of my unpopular opinions, but I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. Let me know in the comment section below if there are any makeup trends or techniques or tips that you love that everybody else seems to hate, because I would love to hear from you. And I will see you guys very soon with a new video. Bye.